All right, let's wrap it up with Detroit losing to the Chiefs. Chiefs get the win on Sunday Night Football. Where did it go? What was the final here? What did I just click on that killed it? 30-17 was the final. I don't have every score memorized in my head. I apologize. Chiefs get the win 30-17. Moving to 3-3. Lions fall to 4-2. Little fight after the game. Brian Branch upset.
That's not a great look.
It was not at all. Dan Campbell even said as much. Good win for the Chiefs, though. The Lions were depleted in the secondary. We mentioned that coming in, and both safeties, Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch, playing with leg injuries. Joseph did leave the game at one point, came back in. So I think that hurt on the back end for Detroit.
I mean, crazy depleted as well. Not just, they're missing a couple of players. They were missing 5 of their top 6 cornerbacks heading into the season. Both safeties are hurt and had game time decisions to see if they could even go. Kirby Joseph is spending running back and forth to the medical tent and getting taped up and stuff. That's the entire secondary. The entire secondary, including nickel formations and that's why, so they're playing base defense basically the entire game, I assume, to try and mitigate the fact that they got no cornerbacks left standing, going up against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. You're like, okay, that's a pretty big handicap to start the game.
So let's start at the beginning of the game here, and we'll work our way toward the end. The Lions, most teams in the NFL defer, and I still feel like announcers are surprised at both ends. Oh, this team deferred. Why would you do that? Oh, this team received. Why would you do that? The Lions chose to receive. The Chiefs always defer. They want the ball in the second half. I'm team defer because I always wanted the extra possession in the second half rather than the first. So the Lions take the ball and then spend, 10 minutes driving down the field.
Yep.
A classic drive. Keep Mahomes off the field. Shorten the game. Perfect. Everything's perfect. And then they line up on 4th and goal from the 1. And they motion Jared Goff out from under center. It's going to be a Wildcat direct snap to David Montgomery.
Right.
We're all watching for Montgomery to run up the middle, and he throws a screen to Jared Goff, who powers his way past Amon-Ra St. Brown, his blocker.
Well, first of all, almost lost the ball on the back of the Amon-Ra block, and then ends up snagging it again, and then, just running through the block of Amon-Ra on whoever the cornerback was. They run a wide receiver screen to Jared Goff, and it scores. Only it didn't. Because
the rule is
take it away on a technicality.
So much like when you shift, so you can motion somebody, they can stay in motion. But when you shift, usually 2 or more players, or you shift, you have to reset. The quarterback, when he comes out from under center, has to pause
for a second. This is one of these. You were talking about how there's a bunch of these sort of bureaucratic rules that don't really serve anybody and kind of suck. This one might be the single worst one because this one exists only for the benefit of officials. This is just to make it easier for them to realize when these things motion and when it's legal, right? That's why it exists, not because it's unfair to the defense or whatever. It's literally there just to make things slightly easier for the officials to actually keep track of.
And to Terry McAuley's credit, he nailed it.
All over it.
He saw it immediately. He said, no, Jared's got to pause.
Yeah.
So rule of cool did not apply here. Cool play. Jared Goff powering his way into the end zone on a wide receiver screen. Lions have to settle for 3 instead of 7. So they move back 5 yards. It's 4th and goal from the 6. They kick the field goal. And then the Chiefs come right back and score a touchdown right off the bat, which is huge, right? From a game flow perspective, the Chiefs offense looks really good, and they scored quickly and they went up 6-3 because they missed the extra point, but
and they went for their own 4th and goal. They got it to Xavier Worthy. So in both those opening drives, in fact, with every Dan Campbell game, 4th down decisions are going to be a huge part of it just because of the way they operate. But they went for their 4th down in that first drive, got what they thought was a touchdown, got it taken off the board, had to settle for a field goal because of the penalty. The Chiefs go for their 4th and goal. They get it to Xavier Worthy, who just roasts his guy off the line, Amik Robertson. And so immediately, just based off, both teams did exactly the same thing effectively. Both went aggressive. Both tried to make the play. And because of that bureaucratic technicality, one of them's got a touchdown, the other one's got a field goal.
4th downs were huge in this game because both teams then traded 4th down stops. The Chiefs had a pass breakup on their 4th down. It was because they went for it again. And then I mentioned in the preview, the lights in Kansas City. There's going to be a few extra drops in this game. Amon-Ra drops a 4th and 3 throw was a little low, but it was there. And that's huge, right? Like, you have to hit your fourth downs in this game where every single possession is at a premium. I thought that was the turning point in the game. It was a one-score game. Detroit, they dropped the pass on 4th and 3, and then the Lions were up. Were they up 10-6 at that time? Either way, the Chiefs end up leading at the half, 13-10.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely argue this game, the only difference between the two teams is fourth downs in the game. Basically, every fourth down difference went Kansas City's way instead of Detroit's.
And this is where the Chiefs. So the Chiefs scored right before the half, and why I always like to defer. They scored at the end of the half. They scored the beginning of the second half, so they're up 20-10. Chiefs offense was cooking again in this one, Sam. I mean, it's the same feeling. And if you look against Jacksonville, they moved the ball extremely well. Mahomes makes a really bad red zone decision that becomes a 99-yard pick six. I'm not saying take that out, but if you did take out one play over the last 3 weeks between the Ravens game, the Jags game, and this game, the Chiefs offense was moving the ball very well and looking like the old Chiefs, as in they have answers to everything. Under center run game was effective in this game. They were using it more often. All the RPO stuff, all the little dump offs. I like the way Chris was calling them jabs and getting the ball out quickly to Juju and to Kelsey and to Xavier Worthy, and how much that softens the defense and opens it up downfield, even though they didn't really throw the ball downfield much in this game. Chiefs offense looks really good. Now, I think it's been a little easier for them going up against depleted bad Ravens defense and depleted Lions defense, but it still looks like peak Chiefs with their balance right now on the offensive side of the ball. Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and now let's get back to the action.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. I think at this point the conclusion is that both of those things are true. I think it's fair to say, look, the Ravens defense is hot garbage at the moment, or it certainly was when they played Kansas City, and Detroit missing literally the entire secondary effectively in terms of health. Of course they're going to struggle against Kansas City. Like, a team went out there and played base defense regardless of what they were looking at effectively because they didn't have enough corners to play anything else. Going up, I mean, if you simply told somebody that going into a game, this team doesn't have enough healthy bodies to play anything other than base defense, and they're going up against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense, what's going to happen? You would inevitably conclude, well, of course the Chiefs are going to cook and put up points. So I think it's fair to say that it's certainly in those two games, they were given massive advantages just by who they were playing. But it's also, I think, reasonable to say that it has looked significantly better, particularly with Xavier Worthy back in the lineup. They're going to get Rashee Rice back soon as well. It is looking more like the Chiefs' offense of old than it has looked for a long time.
And that's a huge point, right? I know the Chiefs they missed Rashee Rice last year, and they had the O-line reshuffle and everything, but they have been relatively healthy on their runs these last few years. And now, Friday's practice for the Chiefs had 0 injury designations. Do you realize how wild that is? I know there's players on IR and everything, and Rashee Rice is suspended, and then Josh Simmons, personal reason, he was missing at left tackle last night. But I'm saying going forward, the Chiefs are sitting here at 3-3. They had 0 injury designations at their Friday practice, including Xavier Worthy, who had been banged up early. And they have Rashee Rice coming back. Meanwhile, you have other teams down to 4th stringers at running back or 5th and 6th stringers at corner or whatever, or the Giants having their 4th string wide receivers, right? And the Chiefs look like the healthiest team in the league once again. And so they're a dangerous 3-3 team as they're starting to figure it out. And while the attrition war is happening around the league with injuries, the Chiefs are sitting in pretty good position right now. And I think at the end of the day that wore out the Lions because they were unable to make key stops when they needed to. They fought back. Sam Laporta had an awesome touchdown.
Dude, great catch.
Back of the end zone. Just did what Isaiah Likely couldn't do last year at the back of the end zone in Kansas City in Arrowhead at night. They fought back. They did what they could, but it was Spags and them made some key stops in there as well, and they got the win.
Yeah, 4th downs are huge. The Chiefs, when they get to the low red zone, are still just absolutely filthy in terms of the stuff they can bring out. I mean, that option run they pulled out is ridiculous. Like a misdirection where like the quarterback opens to his left, the running back takes a step to his left. It looks for all the world like they're going to run some kind of zone play to the left, and instead Mahomes spins back around, and it's like a full quarterback option play to the right where he's got the pitch running back outside him, and instead he just keeps it himself, goes in. I mean, that probably was what started the Brian Branch upset part. Like, he sort of, well, I'm not going to say he taunted him, but his celebration was definitely pointed in the direction of Brian Branch, who was the guy that wasn't able to sort of come out and make the play along with the quarterback on the option. But that, like, the Xavier Worthy stuff, the stuff the Chiefs are able to dial up in the low red zone is pretty disgusting. I think they're so good at that.
You know how big of a game it is for Andy Reid when he breaks out any level of speed option. I'm just telling you, there are playoff games through the years. He did it with Alex Smith, where he would, like, first play of the game, just run a speed option. I need to sit down with Andy why he loves to, like, break out the speed option as part of the script. Like, what are you reading at the beginning? Because he did that with Mahomes a couple times in the playoffs. And it did feel like, because we mentioned this on the preview show, it's an NFC game. It doesn't really mean a ton more than other games, but they can't afford to fall to 2-4, right? It did feel like there are certain games that they break out the good plays. And when you see the speed option, Andy means business. And it did feel like a very playoff-type game from the Chiefs, where they had, key fourth down plays, the option stuff, the couple design runs for Mahomes, a couple scrambles in there for Mahomes, and then, just crack down defensively when they needed to. Felt very playoff-like for Kansas City in this one because they didn't feel like they could afford to fall to 2-4.
But the other thing is it felt far less dependent on Mahomes than it did earlier in the season. Like, the first couple of games, it was like Mahomes is doing almost all this by himself. I mean, he is picking up these crazy scrambles. He's carrying this team individually because he knows if he doesn't do it, they're not winning. This felt more like, all right, yeah, Mahomes is still making some plays, but it's other people making plays in addition to that, and he's much more of the facilitator than the guy literally carrying this offense by himself. That's a huge development for them. We need to give, I think, recognition to both backup left tackles in this game. So, as you said, Simmons was added to the injury report with a non-injury thing, a personal issue that he was dealing with, so wasn't able to make this game. So Jalen Moore gets the start at left tackle. Jalen Moore, remember, they signed as a free agent ostensibly to start at left tackle. They gave him pretty healthy starting type of money, and then they end up drafting Josh Simmons, and suddenly Jalen Moore's just a backup. Well, he comes in, he starts, played pretty damn well, gave up a couple of pressures. Two of them were to Aiden Hutchinson on inside moves, one of which I think he actually countered really well and kind of shut him off again anyway. Like, did Aiden Hutchinson span inside him, and he did that whole spin back the other way and ended up blocking him the second time. The sack he gave up wasn't great, but that's still a pretty good return going up against the Lions and their pass rush. And then the Lions, Dan Skipper's out there at left tackle because Canada got himself landed on the IR. So third string offensive tackle, Dan Skipper, goes out there and gives up very little pressure.
Shout out to people who used to list at 6'10" and might be shorter than that. Dan Skipper, like me, holding it down for us.
Yeah.
People who have been listed at 6'10" at various, like Ali Villanueva, once listed at 6'10" until he got to the league. They realized he wasn't a 6'10" receiver for Army. Tough one for Detroit given the circumstances. I thought we were going to see that back and forth offensive battle, and they just got stopped a couple times along the way there. Good game though, and they've got bigger game for Detroit is the Bucs game because of the playoff implications there. And now Kansas City, they've got the Raiders, and they still have. I think they had a very difficult start to the season with the Lions, Ravens, and Eagles early on, Chargers early on. They still have to play the Commanders, Bills over these next few weeks here. So it doesn't get much easier for Kansas City, but it was huge for them to get to 3-3, and Detroit hosting the Bucs next week on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, it ends up being a big game to win just because the Chargers and Broncos won as well. If either one of those teams had dropped games, you would be like, it wouldn't have been that big. I've never been that concerned by Kansas City just because nobody's running away with that division. They're going to have their opportunities to get back into it. And again, worst case scenario, the 6th and 7th AFC seeds for wild card spots are going to be pretty attainable. So really anybody at this point is still live for those shots.
And by the way, now second straight year, Detroit. Remember, Detroit's defense got destroyed by injuries last year, and they kept surviving. They kept battling and winning games because their offense was so good. This year, it's all in the secondary for Detroit, and their offense was pretty healthy last year. Now they've got injuries kind of both sides of the ball. Like, you just gotta. They still have the pieces to be explosive on offense. They're be a very difficult out in the dome, but it's another year where they got to battle all the injuries and have their stars make plays.
Yeah, I mean they need that secondary to get healthier. I mean that's the kind of concentration of injuries in one unit that's very, very difficult to overcome. And yeah, they could do it against most teams, but not against Kansas City on Sunday Night Football. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
And the all-knowing algorithm is convinced you'll also like these videos, and who are we to argue?